To acquire knowledge, one must study, but to acquire wisdom, one must observe. Marilyn Savant. My friends, every day 10 to 15 minutes, acquiring your knowledge by studying these charts and acquiring your wisdom by observing what's really happening. Price movement is what we look for. Understanding that price movement, being able to predict it, to follow trends. I said predict it, and follow trends. That is what we are looking to do. So let's get busy. We see gold down, bonds down, stocks down, Bitcoin up just a little bit, but still lots of weight on these various markets. We will talk about them. Let's start first with stocks. Lots of downward push. Now, we see price percent oscillator, derivative oscillator on this weekly chart heading down, long, big candle, the biggest candle we have seen. I traced this back for you guys yesterday till we get back, look at this, till we get all the way back to the COVID crash back in 2020. You guys remember that? Remember the COVID crash where the markets went down for 4 weeks, heavy, and then turned around? Well, we're in the third week and things are moving down quite strongly. Markets were all over the place. We'll look at that when we get to the 2-day. We get through the 2-day. We look at the latest 2-day candle. It represents just Wednesday. Solid green, a little bit of wick on top, longer wick on the bottom. It's a slowdown in the down movement. Still down though. Price percent oscillator, derivative oscillator heading down. Look at this half-day chart. You can see where the market bottomed out on Monday morning and then has been sliding sideways. Popped up, we can see, on Wednesday morning and then bled that off in the afternoon to end the day down on the S&P 0.25%. So again, as we look at these markets, we see the derivative oscillator still negative and flat. Price percent oscillator did go positive. We'll keep our eye on things, but overall, lots of downward push, downward momentum, downward pressure. Now we go to the NASDAQ 100 down 0.16%. Again, another big red down candle. Price percent oscillator hammering down. Derivative oscillator on the weekly. First day of the 2-day. Very similar. Doesn't look like a little wick on top, just a wick on the bottom, but a solid green. That's a slowdown in the down movement. Price percent oscillator, derivative oscillator heading down. We look at the NASDAQ 100, the tech sector, up in the morning, bleeding that off in the afternoon. Again, price percent oscillator negative, derivative oscillator positive. Still lots of downward pressure. This is a market that has been unwinding now, going on 3 strong weeks after we had a red spinning top starting all of this. So again, those of you who jumped into a short position with our 2-day crossover, what we call a recross, going down, have done quite well on the Qs and on the S&P 500. It was quite beautiful. Has been, still is. Now, let's move on to bonds. Down for the day 1.21%. Bonds, of course, we had a weekly vertical crossover back on the week ending the 7th of June. Down strong that next week. The week after that, that would be the week ending the 21st. And then this week, so far, we have a solid green spinning top. That is still downward movement, but more indecision in there. But you wouldn't tell it from the price percent oscillator, and the derivative oscillator still hammering down strong on that weekly. 2-day, you can see where we've seen a sideways slide for 4 days, and then the downward movement has resumed first day of this latest 2-day candle. Price percent oscillator You can watch it as you can see the price movement and just dropping over again. Derivative oscillators still oscillating away from that downward momentum. It's a triple smooth version of the relative strength index. It is our leading indicator, so we'll keep an eye on things, but again, overall, still lots of downward pressure on bonds. Look at this half-day chart, 1, 2.5 days of down movement, getting close to crossing over, going down. Derivative oscillator is positive, losing lots of upward momentum. And the price percent oscillator on that half-day chart close to crossing over, going down. So bonds also have a lot of heavy pressure pushing them down. Down for the day, like I said, 1.21%. Now gold really hammered down today after up movement, a good bit of up movement, down 1.62%. It's one reason we have that long wick on the top. That is where we bled off some of that upward energy. Price percent oscillator has flattened. Derivative oscillator still gaining a little bit of momentum on the weekly 2-day. You can see where that weakness really shows, blowing through the 2-day trend line, almost touching the weekly on that just little bit of a wick. Almost there, not quite there, that wick on the bottom. Price percent oscillator, derivative oscillator positive, but heading down. Look at this half-day chart. You can see where it blew through the half-day trend line and blew through the red signal line on the price percent oscillator. And late in the day, in the latter part of the day, the derivative oscillator also went big time negative. So gold just getting hammered on Wednesday. Now, Bitcoin is interesting and it's rather tiresome. No movement registered by the New York Stock Exchange Bitcoin Index for the day. 0.00. We look at Grayscale and it was up and hardly 0.04%. But when we look at where Bitcoin is, still lots of downward momentum, price percent oscillator heading down, derivative oscillator about flat on that weekly chart. 2-day, again, not a whole lot of stock to put in our 2-day without any movement recorded here. And as we look at the half-day, I mean, we did register some candle movements, but it's really just sort of the same, a sideways slide. Still trying to figure that out, but if we look at Grayscale, we can see we're up movement in the morning and pairing that off in the afternoon. Best Bitcoin could do was up 0.04%. And we look at our futures, we again can see up in the morning, burning that off in the afternoon. All these futures charts look about the same, and they're all less than 0.5%. In fact, the highest we got, and that last one was not a futures, that was the 10 cryptos, they were up 3.46%. But when we look at the highest charts, the last chart, up a mere 0.39%. So again, Bitcoin not doing much either. Lots and lots of downward pressure still there on the weekly and the 2-day. That's where we are, folks, as we end the day on Wednesday. By the way, lots of interesting things to report to you. Chapter 9, we put that out on trend lines yesterday. Check that out at chartingwealth.com. You can see it at our YouTube channel. Also, monthly question and answer session. Next week, first Wednesday of the new month is coming up next week. So Patreon members, start sending in your questions, also your stocks, ETFs. You would like us to help you backtrack so you can practice trade those. We love getting your questions and answering those. Those of you who are not Patreon members, this is a big event. Become one and join us. 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, first Wednesday of every month, live question and answer call-in session. If you can't join us, I'll endeavor to record everything and get it out to you soon after the meeting finishes, and we'll nonetheless still try to answer your questions. Also, sent out earlier today, Charting Crypto. We do that midweek every week for our Patreon members. Please check it out. It's in your inbox. And if all else fails, go to our Patreon page and you will see where we post everything there for you. Just in case you missed the email, you can still find it there. God bless, my friends. All the best from the whole team at Charting Wealth World Headquarters.